Welcome to episode 45 of the Clarity Podcast. I was just having a conversation with someone, which then inspired me to record this episode. Essentially, I was talking about the inside out nature of our human experience. Like, I think most of us, probably all of us, most of us, let's go with that, learn that happiness comes from outside of ourselves. And it's a very compelling um, illusion. We get told, if we get good grades, then we feel happy. And that kind of seems true because, we then get the adoration of our parents, depending on our parents, right? Maybe it was never good enough, but for some of us, it was like, you get the adoration, or you get the gold star, right? And you feel good and you get called to the front of the class and, everyone celebrate. I remember I'd do well on science exams. I'd always get like the best in the class. And, um, that'd get applauded in front of everyone. And you felt like King Dingaling. You felt like the absolute fucking badgers nadgers. Look at me. Now everyone's kind of celebrating how intelligent I am. Um, and that's a nice feeling, right? So the illusion is kind of begins there, where it's like I feel happy because of this praise from outside of myself, or because of everyone looking at me and clapping, or because the girls looked at me and whatever it is, right? Or you get a toy, or etc. And then it's like get a good job, or go to uni, get your degree, you buy a nice car. And the illusion is quite compelling and quite convincing because if you bought a new car, for example, it does feel good. You think, wow, and it feels great. And if you like cars, this is. If it's not a car, change it for something else. TV, new makeup brush, I don't know, holiday. Really don't know what it is that you would enjoy, but something that you have bought and you do really appreciate. At first is exciting. You might even get so excited you kind of want to do that little silent scream, or like that little clap, or however, depending on how intensely you feel emotions. When I get excited, I'm like, which you have to kind of hide. Don't let anyone see how happy you are or how excited you are. So it's very compelling and convincing because, however, it doesn't take long to realize that before long the car changes and you don't appreciate it as much as you did. You get in it and you kind of think, fuck, I've been driving this for a month now, and I actually forget that it just feels normal now. I forget to appreciate that it's got heated seats, or that it's got cruise control, or it's got, I don't know, Apple CarPlay, and your old car did. Whatever it is, you just forget to appreciate because you normalize it, right? And in other circumstances, the car actually starts to piss you off because you kind of miss your old car because you've curbed the alloys, and maybe your old car didn't have alloys and that's causing you stress, or the service cost you £1,000 and you think, God, I wish my old banger where the service cost me 50 quid, or I didn't even service it, 'cause what's the point? So all of a sudden the outside world can change. The thing that once brought you joy now doesn't. The girl or the boy that once brought you excitement and joy and happiness now brings you stress and frustration. And you know the holiday that you loved going on, all of a sudden when you realize how much you spent, it becomes the opposite. Or you do 4 holidays and by the fourth one you're like, God, I can't wait to just go home. You get the point, right? You get into summer and you're like, oh, the summer makes me so happy. I must have seasonal affective disorder because now, it's so good and everything's great. And then by the end of it, you think, fuck, I can't wait for it to be winter. I'm sick of this shit. Sick of being sweaty all the time. Sick of not being able to sleep or having a fan in my face all night, drying out my throat and eyeballs. I think I've really over egged the pudding on this point. I think I've really probably over illustrated how, if the outside world really was what caused us happiness, why is that not consistent? If the car really made you happy, why does it not make you happy every single day? If the girl slash boy or whatever really makes you happy, then why do they not make you happy every day? If you love the gym like I do, and you love the gym, why do some days you don't love the gym? Or why some days do you forget to enjoy it? Or you get out of the gym and you're like, yeah, it was all right, that was okay. Other day, where some days you feel like the Hulk and you're like, oh, I love the gym, and then some days you're like, meh, my hamstring twinged. Or there's an inconsistency to the outside world. Sometimes it makes us happy, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it makes us sad, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it triggers us, sometimes it doesn't. But yet we continue on this search where we think it must be out there. I thought this car would make me happy and it did, but now it doesn't. So I need a faster one. I thought this girl made me happy, but she did, and now she doesn't anymore. So maybe I need a different one. Maybe I need more holidays. Maybe I need more money. I thought that this much money in my bank would make me happy, and now it's there. I kind of realize I need more, or a bigger boat or a bigger, whatever it is. There's an inconsistency. Can we just agree on that before I carry on talking? Can we just agree on the fact that the outside world is inconsistent? Our experience of the outside world is inconsistent. So that has to point to the fact that there has to be something else going on here. And I know I've been saying this for years and years and years, but yet we always need a reminder, because I need a reminder. My clients seem to need a reminder. You might need a reminder. Because it's such a compelling illusion. It's such a convincing and compelling illusion, but it keeps us chasing. It keeps us chasing the finish line that never arrives. It keeps us searching constantly for the next thing, hoping that one day we'll find the thing that makes us happy. But there's always more. There's always a bigger house. There's always a faster car. There's always a different woman or man or marriage or relationship. There's always a fitter body or a hotter country or a bigger boat or I don't know, an extra dog, wherever you're deriving wherever your story of happiness lies. There's always something, right? And it's just an interesting reminder when you realize that our moment to moment experience of life is created through our thinking. That we aren't ever truly experiencing the outside world, we're experiencing our thoughts about the outside world. And sometimes, depending on your level of consciousness, sometimes that's visible to us. You can see the thoughts as they happen. Sometimes you can see as you have a thought and you can feel your mood immediately change. You quite literally see the cause and effect. You have a thought, your whole demeanor changes. And depending on your level of consciousness, you can then notice that thought probably wasn't true, or you can question the thought and go, hang on a minute, I've just thought this, my whole being has changed, but that thought's not even true. Sometimes you may not have the consciousness to even see it happen. Something's changed, you don't know what. Your mood has changed, you don't know what. But regardless of where we sit on that level of kind of consciousness, I think it's probably quite obvious to see that our moment to moment experience of life is created through our thoughts, which then in turn affects our feelings, which then can become a bit of a cycle. Then we're in a low mood, and that low mood seems to bring more negative thoughts or low thoughts, and it kind of becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. Or the other way around, right? We're in a good mood, we have loads of positive thoughts, that seems to escalate our mood even further, and what a great day we're having, and that's cool too. But either way, there's something that seems to happen the more we become conscious of the fact that we are living in the feeling of our thoughts, that we are constantly narrating our life, constantly evaluating, and for some of us, criticizing our life and constantly looking for problems. And so it's just helpful to know. That's the point of today's podcast, really, is just a reminder that you can tell how you're using the tool of thinking because of how you're feeling. So if you're not feeling good, you're probably using the tool of thought in a somewhat negative way. And if you're feeling good, you're probably using the tool of thought in a positive way. But it's also quite helpful to know that if happiness isn't out there, and if happiness isn't something we have to go and obtain and create and buy or accrue or collect, then there's something quite freeing about that, because you realize, well, you start to think, well, what is happiness then? And happiness isn't even really a particularly good word, because happiness comes and goes, right? We can be on a beach and be happy, and we can be on a beach and not be happy. But there's a deeper sense of joy. I think the more you look to the space underneath thinking, the more you look to how you feel when you're not thinking so much, how you feel when you're present, how you feel when you're free from the thoughts of I should be doing this and I shouldn't be doing that, I'm supposed to be here and I'm supposed to be there and I should be further ahead by now and I'm this age and therefore this should be happening. When we look beneath those thoughts, in those moments of presence, in the moments of stillness, we often find that that's where a deeper sense of joy comes from, a deeper sense of satisfaction. Then you have to kind of ask the question, if I lived from that place more, what would I do? How would my life be different? How would I show up to work or business or relationships or parenting or whatever it is if I lived from that place more? If I was able to find more space within my own mind, more stillness, operate more from that kind of grounded place of joy and appreciation, that sense of presence, if I could show up from that place more often, how would my life be different? Or how would I show up differently? If nothing else, you may just find that your life would be the same, but at least you would enjoy it and you would have a better experience of it. But what I usually find is when we show up to life from that place, we seem to show up more creatively, more passionately, more alive to it. We seem to have access to a deeper sense of wisdom, or there's more of an obviousness as to what to do next, or it just comes through us. We just say the right words, we do the right things. Sometimes it actually feels like life is working in your favor. You show up from this place of presence, this place of surrender, if you want to call it that, and life seems to almost cooperate with that. You seem to have, and again, this is where the law of attraction comes in, right? If you look at anyone that teaches the law of attraction, whether we're talking like Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks, or there's so many people that teach this stuff, but a lot of it comes from that kind of direction. It's the same kind of thing, right? If we're in a higher frequency, we attract, like attracts like, we attract more things that coincide with those higher emotions. But if you look at what those higher frequency emotions are, they're kind of joy and peacefulness and acceptance. And so there's a real pattern throughout all of this stuff. But I'm in danger of taking us down a few different avenues that we probably don't need to go down today. I like to keep these quite bite-sized. They're always sort of 10-20 minute long. Personally, apparently I can't talk. I personally don't really like long podcasts, and that's probably why I create them quite short. They're little nuggets of thought, they're little nuggets of wisdom, they're little nuggets that are designed to help you feel that spaciousness or that stillness, or to give you some questions to make you ponder. But hopefully you ponder from a deeper state. There's a part of you that listens to this from a deeper state. If you start to ponder this from a thought created, mind created, then you can just pull apart the entire thing, right? There's a difference. There's a difference between listening from that kind of deeper wisdom compared to listening to that intellectual part of the brain that wants to understand everything, like we've been doing as humans for millennia, but yet we still aren't really that much closer to understanding so much. So I'll leave it there. My invitation to you is to, if you know the feeling, there's the invitation, right? It's just a reminder to see where you've got caught in your thinking, drop back into that place of presence, drop back into that place of joy, drop back into that place of surrender. Notice where you've been caught in your thoughts and you've been narrating and you've been criticizing yourself probably, and you've been, narrating your life and telling yourself the story of I'll be happy when, or if only this was different, or if only that, and here's all my problems. Just notice that and just bring yourself back. If this is a newer conversation to you, so none of what I've just said makes total sense, then the invitation is probably slightly different. And it's just to notice. Let's not try and change or criticize or get annoyed at ourselves with, but just notice your thoughts and notice that constant narration. We have like 60,000 thoughts a day, right? Just notice the thoughts that are showing up for you and notice how your feeling follows those thoughts and the implications of that in your life. So depend on where you're at in this conversation, depends on the invitation to you moving forward. But anyway, I appreciate you listening. Leave a review, share it with someone. Let me know if you enjoyed it, because I always enjoy that. I love when I come across comments on Spotify. I forget they're there sometimes, and then I see them, and they're really cool. It's really awesome to read what you got from it, what you're feeling, what your perception is, your insights or takeaways. But yeah, leave a review, share it. Um, I think I mentioned on the last podcast, I am showing up more on Instagram now. And I've also started writing daily on Substack, which is a platform I've only recently found. I love writing, so I'm following that deeper wisdom that seems to want me to write, even though I don't know why. It's just passion that seems to come through me. I find it fun, enjoyable, effortless, and an expression of stuff like this. So again, if you're someone that likes reading, I'll put the link in the show notes. I might even put the transcription in because I think this transcribes it now. Anyway, I'm waffling. We're done. I think that's enough. We'll leave it there. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.